I welcome all of you to this orientation session about economics on a semester 3. And in this orientation session, I will be basically going to explain obviously the syllabus part of intermediate micro 1, intermediate macro 1. And we are also providing the class for the advanced mathematics as well. So all three core paper. So one part will be the syllabus, one part of we can say that orientation will be discussion of the syllabus, then what will be the approach followed by us and how we will be conducting the classes and what will be the problem solving mechanism for any doubt, because semester 3 is going to be difficult as compared to semester 2, or in fact you can say as compared to semester first year, because first year was basically introductory, second year is going to be the intermediate, third year basically becomes the advanced. So this is going to be the critical year we can say for micro as well for the macro, and also we can say it is the most difficult year in the entire graduation program, or whether you go for the 3 year or whether you go for the 4 year. Now the reason the reason is that the content for micro as well as macro significant jump hoga in terms of the difficulty as compared to the first year, and the difficulty will further increase in semester 4. So there is a continuity of semester 4 from semester 3. So for that purpose as well, that means for semester 4 as well as for semester 3, दोनों ही पर्पस के लिए overall approach is going to be basically the numerical one. Semester 3 as well as semester 4, the approach will be very similar. It is going to be applied and numerical mainly in the microeconomics. And about the macroeconomics, again it will be the application part, not that much numerical जितने micro के अंदर आते हैं, but significant amount of numerical will be there in the macro section as well. So in this orientation, I am going to discuss basically first of all with the syllabus. So starting with the first part, that certainly there are three papers: intermediate micro 1, macro 1, and advanced mathematics, mathematical methods for economics. Then first is intermediate micro 1. So just take down the content for intermediate micro 1. Micro 1 has basically 3 units. One is consumer behavior. The weightage of first unit itself is 50%. Second unit is basically the risk and uncertainty. Only one chapter is there. So you can consider 1 and 2 unit as one part. Section A. Because paper के अंदर भी वो section A में divided है. There will be two part of the question paper. Section A will include unit 1 and unit 2. Unit 1 is consumer behavior with a weightage of 50%. Second unit has only one chapter, risk and uncertainty, with a weightage of 20. So 50 and 20, 70% का weightage section A का होगा. And section B will be basically production, cost and profit maximization, mainly 3 chapters. So intermediate micro 1, write down the content first of all for micro. So there are 3 parts. You can see first of all the syllabus if you want. This is for micro, although ये अपलोड जो मैं कर रहा हूँ ये लास्ट ईयर वाला कंटेंट है, बट सिंस करंट ईयर की जो रीडिंग है वो अभी अपडेटेड नहीं हुई है, डी स्कूल के साइट पे अभी वो अपग्रेडेशन नहीं है. So in that absence of new, we are assuming that syllabus will continue because last year ये modify हुआ था, तो it is very unlikely that syllabus will be changed. But even if suppose if there is a minor change, we will incorporate that change in the course. So micro 1 is basically has 3 units. One is consumer behavior, chapter number 2 to chapter number 6, and chapter number 8 and 9. That means it will start from budget constraint chapter 2, then preference chapter 3, utility chapter 4, choice chapter 5, chapter number 6 is demand. Earlier it used to be 7th also, revealed preference, but now it is removed from the content. So chapter 7 is missing revealed preference. Chapter number 8 is Slutsky equation. Chapter number 9 is buying and selling. And there was also a chapter number 10 intertemporal, वो भी आपके लिए अब removed है. So chapter number 7 you are not doing, chapter number 10 you are not doing. Revealed preference and intertemporal choice. So naturally जब आप past year question देखेंगे तो in that past year question you will get those question. Revealed preference का question होगा और intertemporal के question होंगे. So you have to simply ignore those question. because no longer you are covering reveal preference and intertemporal. So chapter number 2 to 6 and chapter number 8 and 9, broadly it can be divided into two sections, we can say. One is all about the basics, starting from the budget constraint, preference, utility, choice and demand. And the other part is basically, we can say, applied, more we can say difficult in nature. That's key question and buying and selling. And more question you can expect from chapter number 8 and chapter number 9. Second unit is decision making under uncertainty, which covers only one chapter, chapter number 12 from variant. So variant is basically going to be the reading for unit number 1 and unit number 2. Previous में chapter number 12 के अलावा there was chapter number 11 also from the Winston, but again वो part removed है. So content in the risk and uncertainty, we can say, slightly reduced as compared to what it used to be. Third unit is producer behavior and market. 3 chapters will be there, chapter number 8, 9 and 10. Mainly these 3 chapters are related to the production, cost and profit maximization. And the reference book, earlier it used to be Nicholson and Snyder. Now from the last year we have to cover it from the Serrano and Feldman. So the reference book for unit number 2, that means again from the question point of view, because last year उससे पहले के अगर आप क्वेश्चन देखेंगे तो देयर वर क्वेश्चन कमिंग फ्रॉम द निकोल्सन स्नाइडर्स के कंटेंट डिफरेंट थे थोड़े. ओवरऑल कंटेंट आपका बेसिकली ये रहेगा, बट अप्रोच विल बी स्लाइटली डिफरेंट. सो दिस इज गोइंग टू बी सेक्शन बी. So write down all 3 units in this part. Unit number 1 is consumer behavior. You can note down all those things in the first lecture. This consumer behavior with a weightage of 50%. Then second unit we can call it risk and uncertainty with a weightage of 20%. Third unit is production and cost or producer behavior and market. Producer behavior and market. Producer behavior and market. Weightage of 30%. So first we have to do with the consumer behavior. Unit 1 is explaining the behavior of consumer. Third unit is explaining the behavior of a producer, how a producer take a decision. In first unit we explain how a consumer take a decision. But what decision has to be taken by consumer? How much commodity to buy? Now that will depend upon how much you can buy. So we'll start basically with the budget constraint, which will determine what consumer can afford to buy. Then second question is what consumer prefers to buy. That will bring to the second chapter, preference. Now my preference to buy depends upon the utility. So that will bring to the next chapter, utility. So budget constraint will determine what as a consumer we can buy. Third and fourth chapter, that is preference and utility, will show what consumer want to buy, what consumer prefer to buy. Then if you combine both, what I can buy and what I want to buy, if I combine both, then I will get the next chapter, that is choice. That will determine what consumer will actually buy. And what consumer will actually buy, that will determine the demand. So that will bring to the chapter number 6. So chapter number 2, starting from what consumer can buy, then what consumer wants to buy, what consumer will actually buy, and then what consumer will be demanding the goods. So chapter number 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 arranged in that order. Then so that will explain the behavior of a consumer. And related to the producer behavior, what producer, how much quantity of labor and capital that producer will use in order to produce certain quantity, so that the profit of firm get maximized or cost get minimized. So the approach in unit 3 will be to explain the same thing from producer angle point of view. So micro content is basically in semester 3 is all about the behavior of consumer and behavior of producer. Now first and second unit combined. First and second unit combined. This is your section A. In section A, you will be getting 4 questions. Out of 4, you have to attempt 3. Each question will carry 20 marks, but there will be sub parts of the question. So we just state the structure of the question paper also for micro. The paper structure for micro and macro is slightly different because in macro you will be getting some MCQ also, objective question bhi hai, not in the micro. Micro का approach more and more numerical in nature होगा as compared to the macroeconomics. So orientation class में just be familiar with what you are going to expect in micro lecture and what you are going to expect in the macro lecture. So paper structure is that unit 1 we can relate it later. The question paper pattern for end semester exam. That paper will be divided into 2 sections, section A and section B. In section A, there will be 4 questions. Each question will have multiple parts. At least 3 होंगे, there could be 4 as well. And question basically carry 20 marks. And you have to attempt any 3 out of 4. You have to attempt any 3 question out of 4. So 20 into 360 marks will be for section A, which include first unit and second unit. So consumer behavior and risk and uncertainty. Second section, question number 5, 6 and 7. 5, 6 and 7. Again, there will be multiple parts of it. And 5, 6 and 7 you have to attempt any 2 questions. Any 2. So it will be 15 into 2, 30 marks here, and this will be 20 into 3, 60 marks here. 90 marks का paper here. 60 marks for section A and 30 marks for section B. Clear? तो approach clear रखिएगा, syllabus का format क्या है वो clear रहना है. Content is more in unit 1 itself, 50% weightage is that, and in terms of difficulty as well. So when you approach semester 3, just be a little slow, I will say. No need to cover the syllabus in a hurry. कि हमने syllabus तो complete पढ़ लिया, but मेरे से question नहीं बन रहे. तो अप्रोच आपका बेसिकली होना चाहिए कि यू हैव टू गो स्लोली बट रेगुलरली, और जो रिक्वायरमेंट है क्वेश्चन एग्जामिनेशन का वो फुलफिल होना चाहिए. इट इज नॉट दैट वी हैव जस्ट कंप्लीटेड द सिलेबस बिफोर द कॉलेज स्टार्ट्स बट वी डू नॉट नो हाउ टू अटेम्प्ट एनी पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन. So any course or any chapter, because only for the budget line there is a complete chapter, for preference there is a full-fledged chapter, and it is not that कि reading के अंदर जो content है they are asking the same thing here, they are asking a quite different thing. So unless you do not know the concept and you have not applied for the multiple question, you won't be able to solve it in the examination. So approach, because this is going to lay the foundation for semester 4 also. So for that purpose also you need to go slow, because direction is always more important as compared to the speed. So don't be in a hurry to complete your syllabus. Take your time, you have plenty of time. Take your time, because content already थोड़ा moderate हो चुका है. Reveal preference का chapter नहीं पढ़ना है, intertemporal का chapter नहीं पढ़ना है, तो we have less chapter in terms as compared to the previous year, but the difficulty is going to remain same. In fact, it will be more. I will just show the question of the last year, and by seeing those questions you can just relate कि okay reading के अंदर ये content आ रहा है, question में what they are asking basically. So this is about the question paper pattern of micro. Now you can start first of all with unit number 1. So I think the reference is clear, chapters and units and the question paper pattern. In unit number 1, that is consumer behavior, it starts first with chapter number 2. Second chapter is budget constraint. Now this budget constraint will basically determine what consumer can afford to buy. Now what consumer, as a consumer, I can afford to buy, that depends naturally on my income and what are the prices of the commodities. So based upon the prices of the commodities and based upon a given income, you can draw a budget line. Just for example, if income is given as 100, price of good 1 is 10, price of good 2 is 20. So at the maximum I can buy 10 unit of good 1 and 5 unit of good 2. So if you join these 2 points, you get basically a budget constraint. So this budget constraint will basically determine what consumer can afford to buy. So any bundle, any consumption bundle which is inside the line or on the line, all are affordable. ये सारे affordable है. All constraint, all any bundle which is on the line or inside the line, all are affordable. So you can choose any bundle which is affordable. That is your budget set. But इसके लिए पूरा chapter है. So naturally there will be various parts of it. What will be the effect of taxation? What will be the effect of subsidy? What is the effect of rationing? So there will be various applied based question. What will be the impact of buy one get one offer? These type of application based question will be for the budget constraint, and it is not that price for all the unit may remain same. We can say price for the first 10 unit is 5, for the next 20 unit it will be 2, after that it could be free. So how you can draw the budget line for those multiple cases? So since there is a complete chapter, but in short, if I say the budget constraint chapter will basically determine what consumer can afford to buy. Now when you move from that chapter to chapter number 3, chapter number 3 is a preference. Now this chapter will explain what consumer prefer to buy. What consumer prefer to buy, that depends upon utility. So utility is going to be chapter number 4. Utility will be chapter number 4. Chapter number 4 is utility. So preference and utility. Now you can read these 2 chapters by combining it. My preference depends upon utility. Like just for example, if I give one particular consumption bundle, one consumption bundle is 4,6. It could be 4 apple and 6 banana. It could be 5 kg of rice, 6 kg of wheat. That is one bundle. And the alternate bundle is 5, 4. Alternate bundle में 5 apple and 4 banana. If I ask out of these 2 bundle, which bundle consumer prefer? Out of these 2 bundle, which bundle consumer will prefer? Now the answer will depend upon how consumer consider these 2 commodities. That means what is the utility function of that consumer. Now utility function could be written as, just see some example. You can write utility from good 1 and good 2 as equal to, it could be x1 into x2, which means utility from 4,6 is 24 if this is the utility function. Utility from 5,4 will be 20 according to this utility function. So if I follow this utility function, then utility from this bundle is 24 and utility from this bundle is 20. So this bundle is preferred. 4,6 is preferred over 5,4. But if I write that utility function as x1 plus x2, that means by adding the commodity we get utility. That will be a case if goods are perfect substitute. So wait for the other class to elaborate that content, but just I am giving you an example. If I write this function as x1 plus x2, then 4,6 utility will become 10. 5,4 utility will become 9. So again this bundle is preferred. 4,6 is preferred over 5,4 because utility from 4,6 is more. If I write that function as minimum of x1, x2, then utility of 4,6 will become 4. Utility is determined by the minimum value. 5,4 utility will be determined by again by the minimum value. So again utility from both bundle will be same then. Now if it is same, then consumer must be indifferent between these 2 bundle. तो हमारा आंसर डिफरेंट हो गया बिकॉज मैंने फंक्शन डिफरेंट ले रखा है. This will be the case for the perfect complement. What is the meaning of complement, and can we write it this in a different format? So x1, x2 is 1, x1 plus x2 is another. It could be minimum. It could be a maximum function also. Maximum of x1 comma x2. So in that case, 4 comma 6 maximum will be 6, utility will be 6. 5 comma 4 maximum will be 5, utility will be 5. So again this bundle will be preferred. The function could be written as, I can write it as log x1 plus x2 or root x1 plus x2. That will be called as a quasi-linear utility function. Or it could be written as x1 square plus x2 square. That will become the concave preferences. So there are certain examples of utility function which is mentioned in your reading. Chapter number 3 will be, and 4 will be discussing about that. So primarily variant is discussing about the 5 जो reading में given है. One is Cobb-Douglas, perfect substitute, perfect complement, quasi-linear. तो वो सारे फंक्शन बेसिकली यहाँ पे गिवन है, बट इन अ पेपर इस फंक्शन के मोनोटोनिक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन आ सकते हैं. मतलब सेम फंक्शन कुड बी एक्सप्लेन विद सेम प्रॉपर्टी इन अ डिफरेंट मैनर and there is no limit of it. There can be many monotonic transformation of it. What is the meaning of the term monotonic? How to check it? Whether these functions are convex or straight line or L shape, what is the shape of the indifference curve? Everything will be studying in this chapter number 3 and chapter number 4 combined. So I said variant के अंदर basically ये 4-5 function given है, but जो क्वेश्चन पेपर है ये 2024 लास्ट ईयर का क्वेश्चन पेपर है. इन दैट क्वेश्चन पेपर द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इटसेल्फ आई सेड द इंस्ट्रक्शन, यू कैन रीड दैट. आंसर एनी 3 फ्रॉम सेक्शन ए एंड 2 फ्रॉम सेक्शन बी. इन द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इटसेल्फ, फॉर ईच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग यूटिलिटी फंक्शन डिटरमाइन वेदर द अंडरलाइंग प्रेफरेंसेस आर मोनोटोनिक एंड कॉन्वेक्स. ध्यान से जरा फंक्शन को देखेंगे. फंक्शन बेसिकली गिवन एज यूटिलिटी फ्रॉम x comma y इक्वल टू मिनिमम ऑफ 3x plus 2y comma 2x plus 5y. तो बेसिकली दे आर टू डिफरेंट स्ट्रेट लाइन, बट मिनिमम है तो वो कॉम्प्लीमेंट की तरह, दैट मींस देयर विल बी अ पॉइंट ऑफ किंग. दिस टाइप ऑफ फंक्शंस हैव नॉट बीन मेंशन्ड इन योर रीडिंग, बट इट विल अपीयर इन द क्वेश्चन पेपर. सिमिलरली यूटिलिटी फ्रॉम y अपॉन 100 minus x, या maximum of x comma y, maximum we can consider. So this is just an example. ठीक है, clear copy of it will be uploaded on your portal. जस्ट एन एग्जाम्पल की जो रीडिंग के अंदर कंटेंट है और जो पेपर के अंदर क्वेश्चन आएगा उसमें यू कैन नॉट से दैट ओके रीडिंग के अंदर ये कंसेप्ट नहीं है तो ये पेपर के अंदर नहीं आने चाहिए. देयर आर मेनी एग्जाम्पल्स. देयर विल बी डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ यूटिलिटी फंक्शन दैट दे विल बी आस्किंग. So the purpose of this chapter number 3 and 4 will be to make you familiar with what are the different possibilities that could be asked. So for that purpose we need a regular class, and we also need an additional lecture, additional for dealing with the additional topic जिसमें problem सिर्फ solve करेंगे. So generally the way will be that we will be having about 2 lecture for each subject in a week, and we will take up one weekend program which we are calling as the Econ Edge Weekly. In that we will be taking only your problem, and from our side we will be discussing some new questions so that you will be able to solve various new questions that can be asked. So chapter number 3 is basically preference, chapter number 4 is utility. From these two chapters we will be able to determine the indifference curve. So but the shape of indifference curve will depend upon the utility function. Then there are different type of utility functions, so naturally there will be different shape of indifference curve. They will determine the utility. So if you combine preference and utility with the budget constraint, then you move to chapter number 5, and chapter number 5 is optimal choice or choice. So this chapter is going to explain that given the budget constraint and given the indifference curve, what will be the optimal choice? So if it is convex, it will be determined by the tangency, but we need to calculate these numbers. What will be the number at these points? So how to calculate optimal choice for Cobb-Douglas function, for perfect substitute, for complement, for maximum, or quasi-linear. So there are different utility function. So naturally there will be multiple numerical question that can be created here. Then this chapter is going to explain, ask an application whether direct taxes are preferred over the indirect taxes from consumer point of view. So those type of application will be there. And chapter number 6 will be demand. Optimal choice पे जो bundle हमने buy कर रखा, that will be called as your demand. But that demand can change either due to change in price or due to change in income. So accordingly, we will have price consumption curve and income consumption curve mainly in this chapter number 6. So chapter number 2 to 6, I will call it as the basic or foundation for the entire consumer theory. आप semester 3 में पढ़ो, 4 में, 5 में, anywhere. This is will lay down the foundation. So take your time, but don't be in a hurry. Take your time. Chapter number 8 तक, because अगर chapter number 6 तक, chapter number 6 तक का content अगर आपका strong है, तो chapter 8 और chapter number 9, that is buying, selling और Stutzky equation, वहाँ difficulty नहीं होगी, because ultimately you have to calculate different optimal choices in those chapters. So 2 to 6 I will call it the basic. So we will have a basic. For basic part, we will be providing you the daily problem set also, weekly problem set also, apart from the variant workbook. तो वेरिएंट का एक टेक्स्ट बुक हो गया और एक उसका वर्कबुक हो गया. तो वर्कबुक के जो प्रॉब्लम है, सॉल्यूशन है, वो मिलेंगे, प्लस पास्ट ईयर जो क्वेश्चन है उसमें जितने भी क्वेश्चन नए आ रखे हैं, वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग दोस. देन चैप्टर नंबर 7 इज नॉट देयर. चैप्टर नंबर 8 इज Slutsky equation. So this chapter will explain mainly that price effect has two components, substitution effect and income effect. So we have to separate that substitution effect from income effect according to the Slutsky equation, and we have to do it for all type of utility function जो भी लिखे गए यहाँ. तो वो function important हो जाएगा हमारे लिए, वो choice का chapter भी important है. Then chapter number 9 is buying and selling. That is again a very important chapter. In that chapter, we will say that price effect has three components. One will be the substitution effect, other will be ordinary income effect, third will be endowment income effect. So what is the endowment income effect? What is the meaning of that term endowment? Very regularly you will be getting a greater weightage question from buying and selling chapter. Clear? So यहाँ तक का content chapter number 2 to 6 and 8 and 9, this is for unit number 1. I've just briefed you about the content of unit number 1, that is consumer behavior, which is 50% of your syllabus. And then you move to unit number 2. Second unit is risk and uncertainty. This is about risk and uncertainty. This chapter will basically explain that normally in the consumer behavior, when you write these two bundles, यहाँ जो combination लिखा है, ये certain है. That means by giving a 1 unit of good 1, how many unit of good 2 you can buy, that is certain. But in the risk and uncertainty chapter, जो bundles यहाँ पे लिखे जाएंगे वो uncertain है. There will be a likelihood of having this consumption bundle. There will be a likelihood of having this consumption bundle. So the bundle itself will become uncertain. So how we can calculate risk premium, what is certainty equivalent, what is expected value, what is expected utility, those things will be discussed in that unit number 2. And third unit is producer behavior. Unit number 3 is a producer behavior. So in that producer behavior, we basically begin with the production concept, then cost concept, and then profit maximization. So profit maximization तक वो chapter आ जाएगा. Profit maximization and the perfect competition. Next semester will basically start from there. मतलब semester 4 का micro begin होगा from monopoly, then imperfect and so on. And unit number and semester 4 will be basically dealing with the two consumers. Here you are dealing with the one consumer. वन कंज्यूमर का फंक्शन गिवन है, वन कंज्यूमर का यूटिलिटी फंक्शन गिवन है, वन पर्सन का बजट कंस्ट्रेंट है. Semester 2 when we semester 4 when we will be discussing the general income, that will deal with the two consumers. So two consumer may have different utility function, may have different budget constraint, so the complexity will increase. So if you understand this semester 3 content very well, for you semester 4 will going to be very easy in that case. So these are the three units in micro, and just see it again. First unit is consumer theory. I have stated the content, chapter number 2 to 6. Then 8 and 9, risk and uncertainty is next. And producer behavior, chapter number 8 and chapter number 8 to 10. So 8, 9 and 10. Clear? So content wise clear. References में basically दो references हैं. One is Varian, other is Feldman. And Varian में आप you have to keep the workbook as well. So workbook का content है, you will be getting the solution of those workbook question from here, and we will be discussing all the question as well. So I hope I have explained the approach and the syllabus for micro part. Now related to the macroeconomics, intermediate macro 1. Now again intermediate macro 1 will be having some link with intermediate macro 2 semester 4 के अंदर. So far you have covered till semester 2, that was national income accounting, money, inflation and ISLM topic. तो उस ISLM topic के आगे से content आप begin करना है semester 3 के अंदर. And the content for macro, again 3 parts. This is for macroeconomics, intermediate macro 1. Just write down the unit. The first unit is short run and medium run equilibrium. Short run and medium run equilibrium, starting from labor market. Short run and medium run equilibrium, it will start basically with the labor market, that is chapter number 6, and then AD and AS chapter number 7. That AD and AS will be derived from, particularly the AD will be derived from IS and LM. तो ISLM का टॉपिक आपने सेमेस्टर 2 में कर रखा, उस कंटेंट को अप्लाई करना यूज करेंगे फॉर इन सेमेस्टर 3 टू डिराइव द एग्रीगेट डिमांड कर्व. चैप्टर नंबर 6 which is a labor market will basically explain an important concept, what is natural rate of unemployment, how to derive that natural rate of unemployment, why that rate of unemployment is different in different countries, how to calculate it numerically. So chapter number 6 is mainly dealing with the labor market. 7th chapter is basically dealing with the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So how AD and AS intersection will determine price. So naturally we have to determine first AD, AS. We will be deriving the AD, AS. Their intersection will determine the price. But we will derive AD from the goods market or money market. Goods market changes can happen due to fiscal policy. Money market changes will happen due to monetary policy. So effect of monetary policy and fiscal policy on price and output. What will be the short run effect? What will be the long run effect? Monetary neutrality, classical dichotomy, those terms will be there. Then when we move from this unit number 1 to the next, in the next we will be basically dealing with Phillips curve and theory of expectation. So Phillips curve will explain the relation between unemployment rate and inflation rate. So what is the link between unemployment rate and inflation rate? What was modification brought into that Phillips curve relationship later on? Because there is an original version of Phillips curve, there is a modified version of Phillips curve. There is a long run version of Phillips curve, short run version of Phillips curve. And what is the role of expectation in the economics? So expectation has a very critical role to play in macroeconomics. Like for example, if we calculate consumption only, so consumption depends upon permanent income also, but the concept of permanent income depends upon expectation. Investment depend upon real interest rate, but real interest rate is nominal interest rate minus inflation rate. But which inflation? Not the past, it is the expected. The expectation has a very critical role to play in determining the natural rate of unemployment also. We will highlight the role of expectation. But expectation form करने के दो तरीके. One will be called as the adaptive, another is called as rational. Adaptive concept कहता है कि when we form expectation, that means the expectation of 2025 about inflation will be different from expectation of inflation of 2024 if last year there was a mistake in our expectation. It means अगर लास्ट ईयर हमने एक्सपेक्ट कर रखा था इन्फ्लेशन 8% है और एक्चुअल में अगर वो 8% है तो 25 का एक्सपेक्टेशन भी 8% ही रहेगा बिकॉज लास्ट ईयर देयर वाज नो मिस्टेक. आई रिपीट, लास्ट ईयर अगर 8% एक्सपेक्टेड है, एक्चुअल इन्फ्लेशन भी 8% है, तो करंट ईयर का एक्सपेक्टेशन सेम रहना है. बट इफ लास्ट ईयर यू एक्सपेक्टेड 8 बट द एक्चुअल वाज 10, so there was a mistake in the past, so you will adapt it in the next year, you will change it in the next year. So expectation will change only when there was a mistake in the past, or naturally that adaptive expectation has certain issues or problems. So the alternate was provided by Lucas as rational expectation. Rational expectation concept कहता है कि people will form expectation by taking into account all the relevant information, whether it is of past or whether it is of future. तो past भी उसमें consider करेंगे और future को भी consider करेंगे because economic agents are rational, so they take into account all those informations which are available to them. So that is an important topic and very interesting one for macro. Reference book, you can see the mainly it is a blank chart, chapter 6, 7, 8 and 9, and for expectation you will have different reading, Atfield and Sheffrin. It will be Atfield and Sheffrin for expectation part. Third unit is again the major one, it is microeconomic foundation of macroeconomics. I repeat, microeconomic foundation of macroeconomics. Macro का foundation भी micro है. So what are the basic foundation here? One will be the consumption. That means when we study ISLM topic, तो IS equation लिखते समय you have written y equal to c plus I plus g. फिर कंजम्पशन जहाँ लिखना था वहां पे ऑटोनॉमस कंजम्पशन प्लस स्मॉल सी डिस्पोजेबल इनकम कर लिया. डिस्पोजेबल इनकम का मतलब है यू राइट करंट डिस्पोजेबल इनकम, which means current income minus taxes. So consumption is a function of current income in the Keynesian approach. जो आपने पढ़ रखा है वो केन्स का अप्रोच पढ़ रखा है. Consumption as a function of disposable income. It is a function of current disposable income. It is a function of current income, but there are many other interpretation also. So one we have to start with the Keynesian consumption function जो आपने किया है. Then Friedman suggested that consumption is a function of permanent income. So what is the meaning of the term permanent income? How we can find it, how we can calculate it, and how it differs from the current hypothesis. Then Ando Modigliani said that consumption is a function of life cycle income. So what is the meaning of that life cycle income? So consumption depends upon income, but income की अलग-अलग interpretation है. It could be current, it could be permanent, it could be life cycle, it could be intertemporal. So consumption can change because of change in the permanent income, because of change in the life cycle income, because of change in the intertemporal income provided by the Fisher. So अलग-अलग hypothesis पढ़ने हैं तो basically, and one is a Barrow-Ricardo as well. Relative income hypothesis by Dusenberry as well. So there are different hypotheses of consumption, and that means इस content को basically आप elaborate कर रहे हैं. Second is investment, and investment के लिए now we have separate. What are the determinant of investment? When you write investment in ISLM topic, that investment is aggregate of what? Aggregate of business fixed investment, it is aggregate of residential investment, it is aggregate of inventory investment. So what determine business fixed investment, inventory investment and residential investment? वो content explain करना. So investment in detail we have to cover it. Clear? So these are the content for unit 1, 2 and 3. Just see it again. First is short run and medium run equilibrium. Second is mainly Phillips curve. Third is microeconomic foundation, which will have two parts. One is consumption, other is investment. Now the question paper pattern is now different as compared to the micro. It will have three sections. Section A, 15 multiple choice question of 2 marks each. So 15 into 2, 30 marks for section A. And those 15 questions will be from section unit 1, 2 as well as 3. Section B, you are required to attempt 6 out of 8. So 8 questions will be there of 5 marks. 6 into 5, 30 marks for section B. And third section, long question will be there. 3 out of 4 you have to attempt, 10 marks each. So 3 into 10, 30 marks for that. Clear? So the question paper will have roughly equal weightage for all 3 units. Unit 1, 2 and 3. So equal weightage roughly. So the paper pattern is different. So naturally, if there is a multiple choice question, you have to be familiar with the MCQ. It will be giving you a lot of MCQ for first unit, second unit as well as for the third unit. And then 5 marker question and then 10 marker question. 10 marker question will be elaborated. Like Phillips curve, their modification, expected augmented Phillips curve, policy implication of Phillips curve, explain the relative income hypothesis or permanent income hypothesis. That means more question will be theoretical as compared to microeconomics. It is not that there will be no numerical, but there will be. But as compared to micro, it will be, I will say, it will be less. Clear? So the approach of micro and macro is clear. I think we have explained the content. So we will be having the regular lecture for micro as well as macro and for the maths part. 2 lectures roughly for each subject and 1 for that Econ Edge weekly. We will be having 1 for your doubt clearances. Clear? So again at the end I will say that you have to be patient, give yourself time. It does not mean that pace will be very slow. We will be having enough of the content before the college opens so that you will have about a month content ready for you. That means question paper अगर अलग-अलग college में different units भी हो रहे हैं and they are asking some different question from different unit, तो आपके पास वो content पहले से prepared होना चाहिए. But don't at the cost of the concept clarification and don't at the cost of reducing the number of questions when you are attempting. So don't compromise on the content part at least. Content आपको complete करना है and enough time, that means paper से पहले about a month अगर आपका content over हो जाता है, you will have plenty of time for your revision. और doubts भी आपके कम हो जाएंगे अगर आपने content काफी detail में start में cover कर रखा. Clear? So now in this process of this entire micro as well as macro, I will be taking the basic lectures, foundation as well as like chapter number 2 हो गया, preference है, UTD choice है, but along with me Samir sir will be basically explaining the content as well as the application part. So more and more questions so that we can take a more and more question और आपके problem भी ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा address हो जाए, because due to time constraint for me it is not possible to have all the lectures. So obviously if you have any query, any doubt in any topic, you can directly call me. You can directly call me on this number. I will just share it. It is, but when we have the lecture, I will be assisted by Samir sir as well in this micro as well as macro paper. So I will be taking care of majority part, I will try say, but again in terms of the weekly answer or weekly जो Econ Edge weekly वाला content होगा या प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग के लिए जो कंटेंट होगा या कंसेप्ट कुछ कंसेप्ट के रिलेटेड कंसेप्ट होगा, समीर सर विल बी टेकिंग केयर ऑफ दैट पार्ट एज वेल. क्लियर? सो आई होप आई हैव एक्सप्लेन all things related to semester 3 content. If you have any query or concern related to the course, you can call me on that number. Clear? Thanks for watching this. Thank you.